It is now 9 o'clock. I will call the Finance Committee meeting to order. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
Motion. Second.
It's been moved and second that we adopt the agenda as written. Motion carried. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and second that we approve the minutes for our May 1st, 2014 Finance Committee meeting. Motion carried. New business. Ms. Wilkes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
In your packet, you should have information that I received from PEBA. Pretty much what it is, I spoke with Tammy at PEBA, and she said that the Board of Directors voted to continue the coverage for council members. Pretty much the reason why they did this, because a lot of towns and counties cannot afford the insurance for the council members. So pretty much what this is wanting to know if we want to continue the coverage for the council members or discontinue it. And there's a page toward the back where we would just complete that, and I'll turn it back in before July 1st. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer, or if I can't answer it, I'll be glad to call Miss Tammy.
Okay.
Now, is this a blanket coverage for everybody on the council, or is it just individual people? It doesn't affect me because I don't use it anyway, but
Yes, it would be, if you go to members of the council will be considered active employees, it's pretty much overall.
So it's either we all have to have it or no one has it?
No,
No?
you can, pick and choose, like if you want it or not want it.
Okay.
Can you explain it?
Yep. No, it's, in other words, if we wanted to leave things like they are now and like they have been for years and years, then you would choose the first option, meaning you're eligible to get it. You're not required to get it, that you're eligible to get it. If you wanted to change it to where council members were not eligible, then you would choose the second option. So, and I know for those that do get it, especially if you get the family plan, you probably end up having to write a check back to the county at the end of the month, so.
We paid for it.
Right,
So, you know,
yeah,
It's not, I don't think it's a burden to the taxpayers.
Right.
So,
Wow.
kind of a perk, so to speak, but we are paying for it.
absolutely. Just like any other employee,
Right.
like any other county employee
Now, this will go for full council to make a decision, correct?
would. Yes.
Okay.
This is actually an addendum to the resolution that I assume was passed many years ago to participate in the program. And so this would be a resolution that council would have to pass.
So is there anything we need to do today?
I mean, I guess just make a recommendation as to council, since this would
Just-
be technically a budget item.
Basically stay like it is now.
Yeah.
Well, that would be my recommendation, because I've used people since I taught school, I mean, forever. And so I definitely would keep it. I don't know how the rest of you feel, but for me,
Mm-hmm.
I would say leave it as is.
Okay.
I have no problem with that. So I guess that would be the recommendation to full council, that we leave it like it is and select the first option.
Correct.
Okay.
Which now council can vote to change that if they.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just like anything else, it's the recommendation from the
That's correct.
committee that we leave it as is.
Okay,
Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
okay, all
Then
right,
that's-
thank y'all.
Make a motion to.
We need a
make
motion.
formally
Okay,
recommend that.
motion,
Yeah, motion.
second. So it's been moved and second that we leave it as is, and that's the recommendation. Motion's carried.
Amen.
Thank you. Okay. Now we're down to item 5, unfinished business. Ms. Stanley.
Okay, well, today I want to start off with, on a good, happy note. I was going to get Kim to tell you all, I happened to think about it before she walked out, because to let her give you the good news. People saying that the insurance will not increase next year. Actually, it will decrease. What they were explaining to her was that it would be, that we didn't have that many claims. So actually, the insurance is going to decrease, and we would go follow suit with what the state has. So ours would actually decrease because we were paying more because of all these different claims and stuff that we've had from the employees. So that's one good thing I wanted to start off with. But the other two items that we've got left to discuss is and I guess you would want to look at the COLA increase before you look at how many meals you need to increase. And if you look on the single page, that's got different, I've added one more option. I've been having 4 options for you in the packet. I've added the option number 5. That's a new scenario. That's getting all the full-time employees to $15 an hour. And then anybody above that would get a 5% increase, and the part-time would also get a 5% increase. And like I said, the other 4 options, they stay the same from what I've been presenting to you.
Ms. Stanley, what would this do for the, part-time employees?
It'll get,
Option 5.
yeah, it'll give them a 5% increase on, yes, sir, on what they're, and then also, what I just happened to also thought about was, we've been budgeted the $50 for the Christmas every year. Well, we've increased that to 100 this year, so that's implemented in that also.
And that's option 5.
All the options, I went ahead and put that in all, yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay, thanks.
So in December, we'll do $100 instead of 50 or 75.
And I'm glad it's included, so come December, we don't have to decide what we're gonna do for the employees. It will already be included, which is good.
I didn't understand you, ma'am, I'm sorry.
I said, and that's a good thing that it's already included, so, we always talk in December, what are we gonna do with the employees? What are we gonna give them? It's already done.
So that we'll know, which we, had 50 before.
Yeah.
But now since y'all, wanted to increase it to 100, then we'll be able to tell her, at Christmas time. And we'll come back and let y'all know, okay, we're gonna do, y'all, as, you voted on and approved, we're gonna do the $100 Christmas bonus.
Ms. Burns, if I may,
Yes.
I think I'd like to go ahead and just drive my stake in the ground. I know I'm definitely not an advocate for raising millage unnecessarily, but I think when it comes down to the salaries and the cost of living, option 4, I have no vote in this, obviously. Option 4, which would get a base pay of everybody countywide to $35,000 and a cost of living increase across the board of 5%. I know it's a large number, but just for the record, if the committee decides to go to council with this, I will go along with the millage increase to cover the taking care of the employees as it relates to having to go up on taxes for this reason.
I just want to say I really appreciate Michelle for coming up with option 5. I think, in my opinion, I think that's a great compromise too.
And just to refresh y'all's memory, this is the second year I've been looking at the individuals individually. And just to, let y'all know, again, 26 of our employees make $30,000 and below. And there's 43 of them that make from $30,000 and $1 to $35,000. And you got 16 part-time, so that's 85 of our 200 and roughly 60 employees that make under 35. Which, of course, your part-time is gonna make that, but the 30,000 and the 35, those are the two that I've been really concerned for the last 2 years. Because we're talking about, that's full-time job.
concerns we've got great employees. There's good as the state's employees. I mean, we really got people that care about this county that work here. And, I would love, Mr. Ford, to get them all up to a base pay of $35,000. But I just don't think that's possible all at one time and be fair to the taxpayers, fair to the shareholders, and that's who we are being responsible to. But, option 5, I like. And I think we still need to continue to try to move forward and get to that goal. It may take a couple of years. But, at this point, that's not bad, option 5. And it helps, and cost of living is tough, I'm telling you. If you got kids, doctor bills and that kind of thing, go to the grocery store, buy a gallon of milk. It's tough.
Yeah, and I totally agree, with you there, that it is a compromise. And the only thing I would like to say is that when I sat back and really thought about, the reason for the big difference in salaries and us still having employees, you know, in that $22,000, $23,000 range, the sheriff's office, historically, is being elected official, has been able to mobilize, move money around to be able to get the salaries up, you know, all along. And kudos to all the administrations for taking care of their people. I think the ones, when you look at countywide, the ones who are making the 23,000, they haven't really been in a position where their folks could move money around within their department to get them up. So I feel like that we really need to take into consideration that for a lot of years, they hadn't been getting the increases that other people in the county have. And so that's why I'm just I'm advocating for, you know, if we're gonna have to move forward and raise taxes, you know, I think it's hard to live off $35,000 a year, in my opinion. Now, 31.2, which is the other option, that's, you know, that's a good compromise. But at the end of the day, I still advocate for the higher amount, and I feel like we can all justify it to the cost of everything to the taxpayers also.
Ms. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Stanley, could you kind of give us a rough estimate of what the millage increase would be for us to, that would use as option 4, Ethan, option 4 versus option 5?
So you're just basically just looking at roughly a little over a mil
A meal difference?
between, the difference between 4 and 5?
Okay.
Difference.
Yeah. Isn't that what you were asking, the difference? Okay,
Difference.
yeah.
So, Ms. Stanley, will you,
It's going to be what?
Oh,
If we do option 4, make sure I'm right. What's the overall mill's going to be?
Option 4, it would be 4 meals, because if you remember, look at your, I always,
Four.
yeah,
We were at 4 and then we added 4 more, correct?
no, sir. I always look at what we do for the reserve transfer, from where we're at today to what we passed last year, and we're to the good $540,000. So if you take that and net off that, the $944,000, then you're looking at about 4 meals. Because what you want to accomplish is getting that reserve transfer, because we were okay with what we done last year. So you really don't want to go over no more than that. So you get it back up to that amount, and then you see what your difference is going to be. So you're going to have to increase it 4 meals.
And it's roughly for option 5 around 3.
Yes, sir.
and so what would that cost our taxpayers? Like,
Okay, so if you look on page 1, page 1, So estimation, this is 3.81 mills, which is basically 4 mills. A $200,000 house, it would be roughly $30 on that house. One that's valued at 100,000 is around 1524. And then I even took a vehicle around a 2019 Ford Explorer, which is valued around $21,000, looking at $5.28.
And that's for the total meals or the individual meals?
That's for 3.81 mills.
So the difference between the one meal value, breaking it down like that is,
Yeah, so if you break that down, basically, 30, if you take for $4, 1 meal is just, you're gonna divide that by 4
you got an $8 meal.
per meal, that's right.
Well, I think I like option 5. If we can get everybody up to at least $15 an hour with the base pay of $31.2, that's still, it's not where they need to be, I'm not saying that, but it's better than $22,000 a year.
It is. That's
And we
pitiful.
can do it in increments. And we've been doing that. We've been giving, the people that are on the lowest end of the pay scale a little bit more each year. And that's what we've done.
Yep.
So,
So I would like to say something. When you look at the increase to go with option 4, I can sleep at night with that. I know I can deal with it in public. I do think option 5 is a good compromise. I will say this. I think if we go with option 5, I'm not gonna fight that. But like I said, I can live with option 4. If we go with option 5, I would like to see us over the next year, instead of waiting until we start talking about budgets next year in March, I'd like us to take this next year and meet every month or two and talk about where we need to be and start making a plan other than just trying to do a blanket increase. There may be some different departments we need to look at that need a little bit here and a little bit there. And we can look at different percentages. We can look at other counties, look at how the state does it, maybe come up with some criteria. If you want this, you get this. There's just a lot that can go into it, and it's not something we can do today. But I don't think option 5 puts us above where we need to be by any means. And I don't know that option 4 does either. And I don't really, again, I just wanted to say that I would really like us to take a longer look at it other than just during budget talks.
Without doing a salary study, comprehensive salary study, we're not going to know, but then you're talking about big money to be able to do that study. So I think we can use our common sense and keep moving forward. And to me, option 5 is the way to go. And if you need a motion to that, I'll make one.
I do, just to make sure it's on the books.
Okay.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and second, and I'll third it because
Can we
option 5
can we
is
state
the
that
one.
motion clearly, though, that we're going to go with option 5?
Yes, sir.
And that we are going to take a longer look over the next 12 months instead of just at budget time? Can we add that to that? Because I think we can really sit down, like you said, without having to pay these big numbers.
Right.
For somebody to come in and tell us how to pay our people, that we can sit down and work through some things that will be an advantage to everybody involved in the county, not just the employees or the taxpayers, but the best case scenario.
Well, we've got somebody back here behind us that we can count on.
I agree.
And with that being said, I'll amend my motion to go along with Mr. Smallwood.
Second.
Okay, so it's been moved and second. I'm not gonna try to restate that motion.
I don't know if I can.
But we're gonna continue to move forward. We're gonna continue to look at it.
And I think that's been the consensus of the Budget Committee or Finance Committee for the last several years. It's not that we're not aware of and trying to, move forward with increasing the salaries. But in any case, it's been moved and second. Motion's carried.
Thank you.
Okay? Thank you. All right, Ms. Stanley?
Okay, so on the millage increase, I guess, so since you had done that, then you approve, are you going to approve to just do just the 4? Because just to go back, you have 7.62 that's banked from last year. Next year will be the last year that you can use any of that, or it's going to fall off because you could bank it for 3 years. That'd be last year, this year, and next year. Okay, then this current year, you have 4.34 mills, which is a total, of course, of 1196. So we definitely need to do the 4 meals for this to satisfy this expenditure. So I guess now,
This one was gonna be just a tick, it was gonna be one meal less.
I mean, not 4, I'm sorry, 3, I'm 3. It's the 3 meals. So do you want to just do the 3 meals or for growth?
Which one would you recommend, Ms. Stanley, the 4.34 or the 3 mils? Keep us solid.
Yeah, I mean, you never know what's gonna happen next year, Do you want to just play it safe and just, budget for your exact expenditures that you have budgeted for, or?
With what I was reading in the paper last week with the school district, with all of the things they're looking at to do, 4.34,
Well, that
with
one,
what they're gonna add to it,
yeah.
and then that's gonna be the total burden on the taxpayers.
When I talked to, Mr. Caskey, and I don't know, it may be changed, so I don't, this shouldn't be quoted or anything. When he called me about a month ago, he said at that time, they wasn't gonna do any increase now. They're having their first meeting today. But I don't know if because they also bank meals, because, see, they haven't increased their, meals for 2 years, I think. I think they hadn't done an increase 2 years. So I don't know, but they also are faced with the same thing we are. They've got bank meals too.
We've been very frugal with the taxpayers. I don't, if my memory's correct, I don't think we've raised taxes but twice in the last 10 years. I believe I'm correct.
I think it might be a little bit more than that, but I can look.
Pretty close.
Just for clarity, you said of what we have banked after next year, we'll lose.
That's right.
So we don't have to try to, we're not looking, I mean, that's all.
See, that's the reason because I try to think of, okay, what's the different options? So that's why I chose that 3.81 meals, because that is exactly half of what you've got banked. Then the next scenario is the 7.62, which is all the banked. Then the third one would be the bank plus half of the current, which is 9.79, and then the other one is all of it, the 11.96. So I tried to give you a range of, to give you a different picture of how it would be.
But 4.34 would give us a little bit of cushion.
Yeah, but that's your current year. I would take, if whatever y'all gonna approve, I'm gonna take from the banked.
I got you.
Because that 4.34, I got 2 more years on that. So the banked,
But you say right at 3 will cover what we've done.
yes, sir.
But why don't we just do the 3.81?
Yep.
That's half of what's banked.
Exactly.
And then that leaves half for next year if we choose to do that next year.
And this might be too conservative of me, but I still think I like the 3 better, but that's just me.
Okay.
I know we got to have some cushion, I know we do.
And some,
I struggle with going, I just do.
Well-
Maybe I'm being too frugal, but.
and something that just came across my mind, I thought about, we only basically need 3. If you do that 3.81, I know y'all just discussed to revisit these lower salaries during the middle of the year, then this would give you the money
To be there.
to be there. I just thought about that.
And that's at the 3.8.
Yes, sir.
Difference in 3.83 not gonna be enough to say grace over.
3.81.
It'd be basically a little over $60,000.
But I'm speaking to the individual taxpayer.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah.
Still considering the 3.81?
I think that's what she was recommending.
3.81, but I need a motion.
I don't have a problem with that if Ms. Smallwood doesn't.
Well, if you make the motion, I'll second it.
Okay. I'll make the motion.
Okay? I'll second it.
I need
3.81,
my buddy out of it.
yep,
Still got to vote.
okay.
I won't vote against it.
Okay.
Aye.
Well, it's been moved, I second. All in favor would be at least the two of us,
I'll give my
okay,
vote on it.
then it's unanimous.
Yay.
3.81. All right,
We got that too full.
I hate to jump in and
well, don't.
prolong the meeting, but now that y'all have done that, I just want to say, I think that was the right decision. As some of you know, those of you who've been on here longer know, for years and years, we did what's called a tax anticipation note, which in effect is a payday loan. Well, fortunately, in the years we were doing that, interest rates were exceedingly historically low. I mean, we were getting that for probably less than 2% at most times. Interest rates are no longer at that. So if we get in a position where you consistently don't pay for what you're doing by increasing the millage, you're going to get back to that, and now it's going to cost much, much more than it would probably be to increase the millage a little bit. So I just,
think we have went back in the tan in
No.
5 years.
at least, I would say at least.
Yes.
It started out at $500,000, then it went to $3 million.
Yep,
And then that bill's got to be paid by March.
correct.
Interest,
Yep.
period.
And there's,
And
and
we have worked hard to stay away from it.
And you have done that, which I think is great, because that is money that is, again, it's paid for interest, attorney's fees, including some to me, so,
So we don't want to give Heath nothing.
but I'm happy not to be able to do that. Again, that's money that's being paid for interest and administrative costs that's not being used to serve the taxpayers. That's always been my issue with the TAN. So now that y'all voted to do that, I just wanted to say that and thank you for doing that.
Well, thank you, and I do remember that. I mean, we were doing that ever since we've been on the board, just about. And, so this does save that money. That's just giving away money, giving away taxpayers' money. This is not, so. Thank you. Okay?
Okay, that's all the items that I have before we go into executive session. Mr. Eubanks?
The only two items that we are not totally clear on is with the coroner's office and the 4 slots that we need to discuss on what we're gonna do with the remainder of that money. If you wanna go to the coroner's office, I know y'all asked me to talk with him, and the coroner and I sat down and had a discussion, and I told him some of the concerns that we had all the way from transports to people working at both places, from the funeral home to the coroner's office to luncheons. I discussed everything that I've ever heard or was brought up to me. And I told him, I said, one of the things I feel like I could probably go back to y'all and sell to you is if we allow him to have this part-time money, or the money for his part-time people, it would definitely have to, I felt like y'all would definitely want to see the transports go away with scheduling and all that, along with this money and all. That being said, we increased the line item for him because basically it was costing so much to outsource the transport. So that being said, I'm asking, is that something y'all are willing to look at for him for possibly, let's look at it, if you give him this part-time money for the part-time position, let him reschedule, look at decreasing that line item, because hopefully we won't need it, basically for a one-time, for a year, to see if that would work for him.
Ask a question, matter of fact, it was asked here at the last committee meeting, I don't mind asking him at all. Did you, take a look, Mr. Carter, and see if you could do with less of those part-times? I believe you had 5, is that correct? Were you set on that number?
Can I plug a question
Yes,
in with your question? It's basically gonna be one at a time, right? It's not gonna change what the dollar amount he's asking for, whether he has 5 or 10 or 20.
Right.
Because it's just gonna be a rotation, so they don't have to do it all the time. Is that correct?
That's
I just wanna Make sure I
correct.
understood it correctly. Yeah. So it won't matter, it's just, whether he fills that one slot or not, we're just.
Yeah.
Because I got a couple of questions too.
Sure.
Yes, ma'am.
Raise that mic up.
Okay. Do I address the chair or how do you want me to do
I got
this?
a question I'd like to start with, if it's all right.
Okay.
We'll just start with him.
If you don't mind, I'm sorry, Mr. Madam Chair.
No, go ahead.
Don't let me butt in. I love to talk. So, I want to make sure I understand this correctly.
Can I address what you said?
Please.
All five will not be working at the same time. We're going to work around their schedules as paramedics. So, this one may be able to serve when I need them to do, or they may not be able to. It's just one at a time. It's not all five at one time. So those funds will be used to pay all of them depending which individual person is on call. Did that
There's
clarify
one person
that?
on every time, or the five rotate, the number doesn't change. It won't matter how many you have.
It won't matter how many I have. Just one person will be on call at a time.
So you're saying it just opens you up to have more access to someone being on, having transport opportunities,
Right.
right?
That, and let's say that I've sent Mr. James off to Newberry, and the bottom drops off, something happens here, that I can't handle everything by myself. I've got the ability to pull somebody in to help me. I will say that rescue and fire and law enforcement in this county helps greatly, but there are some issues that they will back off in a heartbeat and let Mr. James take care of it. So at that, I'm trying to get folks that'll jump in there with me to be able to handle those situations. And I will tell you that when we go out on a scene, MVA, usually what Mr. James and I do is one of us takes responsibility for the scene, and the other one gets with Highway Patrol and tries to make it to the family before Facebook does. So at that, we have to divide and conquer to be able to do that. As far as these individuals, Mr. James right now has more vacation time than, he could take off from now till, I don't know how long. And I've still got to have somebody on backup to be able to cover his vacation days with me. Currently, the way the situation is in this county with the coroner's office, the two of us covering the county 24/7, 365 days a year, there have to be two of us available. One to address it and always have one person on backup. Truthfully, and John, you correct me if I'm wrong on this, 90% of our cases, we both roll.
We've always had part-time,
Yes, sir.
as long as I can remember.
Yes, sir. Going back to Jimmy Hunter days.
Sir?
Going back to Jimmy Hunter days.
Yeah. Oh, boy, but, if I read it correctly, what it's going to do is free you guys up at night. They'll come on at 5 in the
Correct.
afternoon until 6 the next morning.
When we utilize a part-time person, they will come on at 5 and rotate out at 8. In that, either John or myself will still be in play and be the administrator. So we still roll 2.
But they'll be on call or be working. Whether they make a call or not, they're still going to get paid, correct?
That is correct. They're responsible for that time from 5 to 8.
But you may not need but one at a time.
Right. Well, one person will be on call, and one of us will be working also. So I always need to have 2 people in place at all times.
Now, is that gonna take care of the transports? That thing's been a bug.
This is a monster that I need wisdom and leeway to try to work out, because the solution that I brought you did not work because simply the volume and the timing of things. So at that, we need to try this we'll try it, and we'll take a look at this, and I would.
Accommodate you.
Yes, sir, I do.
Bought your vehicle.
And if you can figure this monster out for me, I'm all for you. But my priority, I want to tell you about my priority on transports. It's a 4-tier method. My first option is that either myself or Mr. James goes to Newberry. The second option is, and the sheriff has been very gracious in allowing Mr. Vaughn to help us coordinate off-duty deputies, and I think we've even asked the officers at the jail to go on a rotation list, and we asked them to go second. And that fee is a lot less than if we have to pay a transport. But in that, if they work for us, it cannot conflict with their duties with the sheriff's office. They cannot take, Spence, I think they can't even take a vacation day to go do this, right? So
It's got to be off and available.
they've got to be off on their own time and available. The third option I have, there is a gentleman who's helped us with transport that lives in Sherrall. Mr. Murray, I don't know if you know him or not. He's gone for us. He's done that. But add that, he's not an officer. But we pay him, I think, the same as if the officer went.
Murray Cassidy.
No, Jim Murray. Jim Murray. And the fourth option is to get a transport service. So that's my tier. Every time we get, that's sort of the cycle that I follow whenever we arrange about transports.
Okay,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
well, I thought Todd had another question.
So I do, and I'm trying to wrap my head around the bigger, like you said, the big monster. So what do you think the average call time is? I mean, how much time do you have invested per call, roughly? I know some of them are 3 hours and some of them are X, but what do you think the average?
You're going to have to help me do a time study on that. A call can range anywhere from an hour, because getting from A to B in this county pretty much, unless it happens right next to you, a minimum is an hour. The longest time we've had has been a day and a half on scene.
And that's soup to nuts from the time you get the call till it's no longer on your plate.
From
Paperwork's done, whatever.
Right, from 10:08 to 10:07.
With that, I mean, that's just the call itself. But you got things after the call, especially with child dies. Yeah, we answer the call, depending on what the situation is. If it's a homicide, it's gonna take a little longer. And once we get to the morgue, now we leave the morgue, yeah, that's the end of that part of the call.
And that's what I'm asking from start to finish till it's over
But I
with.
can't tell you that because child fatality, you have to have a meeting every 30 days until that case is solved. So that, you can't really say that that case is over at that point. Because we have to have a 30-day meeting, we have to have an initial meeting, and then we have to have one every 30 days until that case is solved, until the case is solved, or until the case is closed. So you still, I mean, that case is open until, until then, until the investigation is concluded, either by the sheriff's office or either when the committee, deems that the case is closed. So, but I mean, on the standard case, yeah, I mean, you could, an hour, 2 hours, but, I mean, if you're on a homicide scene, 6, 7, maybe 8 hours before you even get back to the morgue with that body.
There's just too many variables over that, but your standard
Yeah.
call, hour and a half, and we're just your run-of-the-mill call.
And if it's like a natural case, you remember back in the days when you called the funeral home and they came and picked up the body when you were sitting at the scene? Response time,
Take them back to the funeral home, we were coming back.
but they come out to the scene and remove, and we're probably waiting on that funeral home for about an hour. Average response time is about an hour for the funeral home to get to a scene. And we feel responsible for that body until that funeral home gets there. I'm just not gonna leave, even though the family's there, and I know the family is responsible.
You don't need to leave them by themselves.
Exactly, yes, sir.
Not without some kind of healthcare professional being there with them, if it's a hospice case or whatever.
Right, but if we're called on call, that deceased is my responsibility until I transfer.
Mr. Eubanks, you got a recommendation?
If so, I would recommend, let's try it for a year, give him this one, the part-time thing. Being that we can, I told him, I said, look, only way I feel like I can sell it is if we have to pay an outside source for transport, there needs to be justification as to why they're not able to do that at that time. And let y'all come back at the end, and we can keep up with it throughout the year.
Miss-
And fill you in as to why he had to use an outside source, but yet we can take from the money y'all have already given to fund this.
Mr. Eubanks,
We had
if I could,
budgeted actually $40,000 more for transport, so what we're gonna do then, if I understand correctly, is take that $40,000 back, apply it to
the
extra
15, the
person.
14 or I'm gonna have to,
Let's say 15,000.
Right.
Apply it to that for his part-time.
not the 40, but the 15.
Right. And then let's take it case by case. And I told him he'd justify why.
And Mr. Eubanks, what I would like to do and gain your assistance is maybe once a quarter, you and I sit down or Ms. Stanley or whoever y'all deem is to take a look at this once a quarter and see what's working and what ain't working.
Right. And bring it back to y'all. I mean, and we try this till next year at budget this time, and we can tell you this worked great, and we actually saved some money and by doing it this way.
It's just gonna be a one-year trial, Todd, I don't really have a.
I want to try to get a solution on this. I really do.
Well, and I think what we need to, I'm good with the one-year trial, exactly like y'all said. I mean, we're saving money here to spend it here and try it for a year, let's look at it. But I think, again, this kind of goes back to the salaries. I don't think we can wait till next year and look at it. I think we need to look at it through the months. I think there's a way to come up with basically how many hours you have with your hours and the part-time hours every month. I know it's feast or famine, it's a roller coaster. You're gonna have months where you have 3 calls, you're gonna have weeks where you have 15 probably, and I get that. But we're averaging a year, and we can look at how we work our hours and things like that, and we can come up with an average call time. And I know you may have to add an hour a month for a meeting for the next 24 months, and that call takes 24 hours, or it takes 48 hours. But we can still come up and say the vast majority of things can be handled in X. I mean, all we're looking for is a ballpark to figure out how we can best fund what you're trying to do without, I mean, I know we don't tell you what to do in your department, but we have to figure out the best way to fund it.
We got to work together. I understand that. Now, in that, my question is, do you want us to look at it as per call, or do you want me to also look at it as an on-call rate? Because we are on call all the time.
And I understand it. So I guess my thing is, I just kind of want to know if it's a way we can kind of run, or you can, again, don't want to tell you how to do things, but how are we managing this time? Are we manning the office 8 to 5 Monday through Friday?
Yes,
All right, is that necessary?
yes.
Well, with cell phones and rolling over, do you have to be sitting there? Can we work from home? You go on when the phone rings. Again, I'm not trying to tell you what to do. I'm just, how can we do this to make the money make the most sense? That's all. I don't know what you do day to day. I don't. That's why I'm asking so many questions.
And because just to piggyback on what he's saying, I looked at several of these counties that are in similar populations to ours, and they only have one. And we have you and a deputy and others, and I just wonder, how do they work it out with one, according to their report?
I've often wondered that myself too, Ms. Burns. And there are, I'm not going to throw any other county under the bus, but there are varying degrees of professionalism in every profession. And I want you to know that Mr. James and I are trying to be on the top end of that realm as far as professionalism. And with one person, I don't know with the caseload that you could cover this county with one person 24/7. I mean, even if you've got, I don't know what you pay your ambulance service for having 2 paramedics sit in the building, even if they don't get a call. But I'm sure their on-call rate is a minimum of $15 an hour. I would but I don't know that for a fact.
We've evolved a long ways from the days of Bernard Stubbs,
I was,
a long ways.
I very much revered that gentleman, but the days of running a coroner's office the way where you were able to in the 60s and 70s no longer exist.
I agree.
Autopsies were,
Call him, he'd get lost and we'd have to go find him.
autopsy,
And he was my buddy.
autopsies were a rarity back then, but I dare say if anything goes to litigation, the first document that they're going to ask the coroner's office for is, why didn't you do an autopsy on this? And, you know, drunk driving, you got a felony DUI. We've got different instances where I've always told my folks, if you're at a scene and you're trying to figure out whether or not to do an autopsy, that automatically tells you that you need to do one. If you're that much in contemplation and doubt about it, that tells you that you do need to do one. I'm sorry, Mr. James, go ahead.
No, I wanted to address Smallwood. As far as Kip and I go, whether we spend an hour in the office or whether we spend 90 hours in the office, it doesn't affect us and it doesn't affect the budget because we're salary. We don't get overtime pay for being in the office. I'll invite anybody on the council or on the committee to come in and sit at the office and look at the stack of paperwork, what we do on a monthly basis, what we do on a daily basis, and what we have to do. It's more feasible for me to be in the office and to sit home and wait on a phone call to drive to the office to do work. It is not we say 9 to 5, it's not a 9 to 5 job because as Kip said, we try to be professional and accommodating to the funeral homes because they do so much for us. Because I'm a salaried employee and because I love my job and I like taking care of the folks in Chesterfield County, if a funeral home calls, if I get off at 5 and I get home at 5:30 and a funeral home calls and says, I need a cremation permit. If I ain't got nothing going on, I'm going back to the office to do that for them. Because not only am I taking care of them, I'm taking care of the citizens of this county who are looking for death certificates and trying to do it. So, you know, it doesn't matter. Our time doesn't matter because we're salary. And even if if a part-time went up there, he's only getting paid $75 a day. So it doesn't affect the budget for us to be in the office as far as money-wise goes. Now, time-wise, yes, I understand what you're saying about that, but there's reasons behind why we do what we do. But like I said, I invite anybody to come by and sit down at the office and spend a day with me and watch the paperwork we have to do, what comes in on a daily basis. It's a whole lot more than what it used to be. We talked to Mr. Eubanks and Ms. Stanley, and we were talking about case files. I can go to the office and get you a box of case files from Bernard Stubbs for a whole year that's in a box that big. Whereas now, my case files for a month takes a drawer and a half in the file cabinet. So, I mean, it's a lot to deal with, and it's a lot to do other than just going to the house and saying they're dead waiting on a funeral home. That's not what this job is anymore.
Let me ask this question. This is dragging out pretty good. I guess my question is to get down to the nuts and the bolts. If we're talking about $14,000 here, how much does it cost to do a transport? If you pay the outside service, how much is that transport?
Outside service transport is,
Okay, so that's 27 transports. Will you guarantee the council that you will make up the difference for 27 transports? That you can honestly say that those 27 transports that would fund what you're asking for, can you make sure that you save us 27 transports by having this extra person?
Mr. Ford, I have found out with death and the uncertainty of my hours, I can't make you a guarantee on anything. The guarantee I want to make is to try this and see if it works. I will make you a guarantee that if it doesn't work, that we sit down together and try to find a a solution that will work.
No, well, I guess what I'm saying is the part-time person, I'm on the same page with you. You can't guarantee anything. But I'm saying this part-time person, can they do at least 27 transports?
But there again, the factors that may come up, we don't know. I can't guarantee that we won't never call a paid services, but what we're trying to do is use those part-time people along with myself to cut that.
This is what we're attempting to do, but I cannot give you a guarantee on it.
What you got?
The only thing I would add is I can almost guarantee that the 7 people in the jail, they're gonna be eager to do this, to see something different besides.
Goes away next year to
They wanna get out of this and also. So they, I mean, they're tickled to death about this opportunity, and I feel quite sure. 'Cause definitely,
quarterly.
many of them don't wanna do it because they see it every day in the jail. I'm almost assured that
And-
it's gonna correct itself.
Yeah, and the transport is where the large expense is, because I want to think that the off-duty officers get, is it?
What are you talking about, when the deputies,
When the, 150 versus the 6 whatever.
I mean, it just makes sense.
Okay, so I think what we are hearing is that we had already planned to give you all $40,000 for transport. So we will, I think it's the consensus of the committee, Mr. Curtis had to move out for a minute. Take 15,000 from that 40,000, that leaves 25,000 for transport. 15,000 goes for this part-time person. It will be evaluated on a quarterly basis to see if it's working.
And
And
I'd
if
love
it
to sit
doesn't
down with you and
work,
say,
we'll pull the $15,000 back.
So are
But again, it's something that, like Todd says, we'll be looking at it.
and Mr. Smallwood, I would invite, if the council wants to do a time study on me and John.
And part of asking that question wasn't about whether it's costing us for every hour you stay there as much as if we don't have to have 60 hours a week, it's better for you if you don't have to be there 60 hours a week. And
Yes,
that's kind of
sir.
where we're going with it. And I don't want to dive too deep into that because we're getting off something off today. I do have one question.
Okay.
All right, just for clarity for what we're gonna do now, is we're gonna go ahead with the part-time instead of the addition we made to that one line item, right? Not just taking 15,000 from it. What, are we looking to just take 15, or are we gonna trade that 15 for that one line item? I was kind of, when we first started talking about it, I thought we were gonna take this 40 and say, okay, well, if we don't have any transports, if this is gonna take care of our transport problem, we should be able to reduce that back to where it was, or even if you think we need to bump it up a little bit, and then fund the part-time position. Is that correct?
What I was thinking that you wanted to do was you were going to transfer 15 from that line item to salary and fringe.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Is
But
that
now that is,
And you can do either one. I mean, if we're gonna monitor it quarterly, I mean, you can take the whole thing and we'll monitor it quarterly but
Adjust
either
as
way,
needed.
right.
Well, do we need that increase at all? If this should, we're hoping this will take care of our transport problem, right?
well, I ran in detail, of course, the other day, and as of last week, this account with the balance is $123,000. But of that, 26 of it is transports. So it's already over budget, like $10,000. So that will, and like I'll reinstate what I usually do. I usually try to increase it like 10 to 15 because I know every year that this is going to go over until we get it to a good number, which I think would be right around 100,000.
That being
Smallwood.
said, let's just do the 15 from that 40 and for right now, then we'll monitor it quarterly, just like you just said.
Yeah, but now that is not,
That's gonna help us cover the other.
yeah,
Right.
and that is not giving us any wiggle room for for you to hire anybody that has retirement too, Kip. Just keep that in mind. These medics can't have retirement,
I'm with you.
in the retirement system.
I'm good to keep, currently, Mr. Harper and Mr. Walker are with me.
Okay, so Brian, he will be in the retirement system because
Okay.
we already have him
So
pay
I've got-
him now.
So you're, but
So
I'm
that's going to be
I'm
pushing
not
it.
firing
Yeah.
him though.
Do what?
Are you saying that I have to fire Mr. Harper?
No, I'm saying if you're gonna use him for this part-time person, we're gonna have to pay retirement on him, on that money.
I understand. But here forward, it needs to be a
Just make
paramedic
sure you
that's
don't-
not on
yeah.
state retirement. That's what you're telling me?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, so just to make sure everybody's on the same page now, what we are agreeing to is to take 15,000 from the 40,000 increase that we had allocated or budgeted or recommended, applied to the part-time person. It will be reviewed on a quarterly basis just to see how it's working out or if it's working out, and then we'll go from there,
And it will be for 1 year,
for 1 year.
1 year on.
Okay.
We'll make that motion.
Make a motion, we take that recommendation.
I'll second.
It's been moved and second that we'll do just what I said.
Thank you kindly, ma'am. Thank y'all.
That helps you.
And I do too. I appreciate it.
We'll work with you, we'll work with you. There's some things you cannot determine, I mean, there's just too many intangibles in there. You don't know how many homes are going down.
No, sir, I don't.
And you don't know how many transports it takes to get them up there. And I'm assuming you got a chain of command,
Money
that
that's left
body,
over this year, you
not chain of command, chain of evidence, if that body is evident.
It is.
Have a certified person to do it, haven't you?
Correct. Yes, sir. Thank you.
I'm all done.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly.
Thank you.
Another two pull.
Ready for the next line item? Mary, don't leave, we're just getting ready.
30 minutes for 14,000.
Okay?
Okay, the only other thing that I've got that I need some guidance on is the 4 slots at the detention center, the money that's left over for this year that didn't get used. What's y'all's wishes to do with the remainder of that money? How would you like to utilize that money?
Now, that budget, or that money for this year runs out June 30th,
That's
right?
correct. That's
So-
correct. And
And I think
it'll
you
go
said-
back in for the 4 slots next year.
Right.
But there'll be a pot of money that's left over this year that y'all could do something with or allow him to do something with.
At the detention center.
We're across the board, right? It's just the 4 slots that he shared. Go ahead, Skip. It's the 4 slots from the detention center that he didn't use this year.
I want to make sure that the sheriff realizes what we're talking about. You want to come up? I think what Mr. Eubanks is getting at, you want to do something for your road deputies, correct?
Well, I asked
Well,
for,
you
yes,
want to do something for all of them.
yes, sir.
But that number is extremely high. And I know you brought your budget back down to try to help that, but it's not gonna cover about, what, a third of it? Somewhere right in there?
I don't know the exact.
So what Mr. Eubanks suggested, you've got 4 slots at the jail that have not been used. Did you know that?
I think when you came in for the budget retreat, you mentioned that the detention center was fully staffed.
That's correct.
That's correct, but to meet those state standards, they have said we need 4 more.
But you had 4 slots that's already been funded.
Weren't
The
full.
money's been there.
Weren't funded, excuse me, they were funded, but they were not filled.
Yeah. The money's there. It's been sitting there. And so I didn't know if,
We were full till we pulled one off that we're taking over to the patrol side of the house. So I'm only aware of 1 slot that we're down right now. Isn't that right, Spence?
Cambo, I think what they're saying is that you've got 4, according to Michelle, that there's been 4 fully funded openings at the detention center the whole year. So that's what they're talking about. So there's a surplus of $160,000 on your salary line item at the detention
The
center.
exact.
So that's what they're,
no, ever since the study came back, you remember we were waiting on the study at the beginning of
yes,
budget
ma'am.
last year, but ever since the study came back, those 4 slots have been fully funded, 4 slots. The money's been sitting there.
I did not know
It's
that.
still sitting there. So,
Okay, I did not know that. Just, and neither did Troy or Bridget or anybody at jail.
So when you look at just right
We can
now,
hire 4 today.
yeah,
Yes.
but so what they're getting at,
June 30th.
what they're getting at, Cambo, is
But he'll have it next
that's a surplus money that's on that line item. And they're looking at something to work with you to see if you could use part of that money, just theoretically, as a sign-on bonus for new deputies or something like that, to try to be able to get you where you could hire, you could carry some of that money over to use for hiring sign-on bonuses or something like that, to try to help you be able to get deputies.
And that number's around 160?
Yes, 160 exact,
160,000.
160,268.
From my understanding, that's the issue is getting qualified people to come to Chesterfield County to go to work. But with the sign-on bonus, like Mr. Eubank is suggesting, would that help you?
Well, anything would help, but I think the biggest help would be if we can get the salaries up for the deputies.
Well, they agreed on 5% cost of living, so if you got a deputy making 40,000, that's already 2,000 right there.
like 22 and some change. Well, if you've got that budget, that money in the budget, it runs out end of June, correct? So you gotta use it by June 30th. I don't know how many people you would be bringing on possibly for a sign-on bonus, but it can be used as it can't be a salary because it's not repeatable, because those spots are spoken for next year, right? So you-
I understand
you fill
that.
those. But it could be a end-of-the-year bonus for existing employees. Is that something you could do, Mr. Ruffner?
No, sir, not really supposed to do that.
I just don't personally see how, if we only got a small window of time to get enough people in here to give them that sign-on bonus to come, and we have no application.
But as far as taking a,
It takes us to September to get people in here, will that money still be here in September?
that's what I'm saying, use that money as carryover, some of that money for carryover for next year.
You have to increase their budget.
In the budget amendment?
Yes, I mean, that could be included in this year's in the budget y'all are working on now, that money would be carried over from the current year to the next fiscal year.
But we could either give you all of it, part of it, whatever,
Correct.
and hopefully,
We'll take it off.
that would
We'll take it off.
Well, he's gonna have to increase that line item. It can't carry, I mean, you have to increase that department's line item.
Now, would there be a time limit on that we would have to use that money as a bonus
So,
if it was carried over?
Ms. Tony, what did you just say? Could you say that louder? So you said something about you'd have to increase that line item. Is that a
Yeah.
one-time increase or?
Yeah, you would have to increase it that one time. And then, so like, I know that when I'm working on budget next year, that department will go back down 160,000 for next year.
One-time carry.
I wouldn't want to do it no more than a year, so she can clear her books back up for a year.
It wouldn't be any budget increase other than just that line item, because the money's already there.
Yeah, it's just transferring money from one line item.
it's just a shell game.
Right.
Basically.
I just know we can't have it filled by July 1st, you know what I'm saying? July 1st,
No,
we can't get people in here.
I mean, it'll be a budget increase for 1 year because they're gonna hire somebody that teaches them to fill those 4 slots. So you're gonna have people hiring, but then you also gonna have that, one-time pay. That's why I said you got to increase that line item.
Well, that's what I'm
But,
saying.
yeah.
Money's on.
But the money's here currently for this year, but it won't be there for next year. You got to increase it.
Yeah.
And Sheriff, when and if we get the new jail, if it's built the way I'd like for it to be built, you may not need as much staff.
That's a very likely possibility.
Yes, sir.
That, the way they're building jails now, they could, it takes less people to run them.
And we're trying to work on a solution to your population problem. You got about as many over there that did at the race last weekend. And I don't have the answer, Sheriff, I don't. But it's costly, I know it's tough on your employees, and that's probably one reason why it's hard to keep them. Because of the ones that's been in there forever and a day. It's gotten probably pretty contentious, I would think.
Well,
Well, nobody likes being in jail. I mean, it's just, nobody
the only
likes being in jail.
thing, going back to this, $160,000 and carrying over for 1 year, you know, you just want to be cautious that you don't hire people and pay them a salary using this $160,000 that's not going to be there the following
I
year.
understand, it's a bonus.
Yeah, you want to be careful there.
Don't want to be spent willy-nilly. Now, I know you won't.
So, I don't know how, you know, what we can do. The money's there right now. We're recommending that the same amount get approved for next year, plus whatever increase, 5%. So we're saying that the new line item, if I understand correctly, is gonna be 5% plus whatever is current, plus this $160,000.
You have those 4 slots to hire people.
Okay.
You'll also have $160,000 sitting in there. Now, I know when other places, if they do this sign-on bonus, they require, are y'all gonna make them sign a contract to have to stay here for so many years or so?
Whatever we come up with, the amount of the bonus out of this 160
Yeah.
per employee, they will not get the money at one time. It'll be done in increments to make sure they stay.
The only problem you do with the money in increments is you might have to stretch it 2 years, but y'all not gonna have that money here for 2 years, but we gonna have to eventually.
Yeah.
But if you,
I mean, it needs to be increments.
Yeah.
Y'all have to work with it.
So I guess just like what you're saying, so let's say if you hire a new deputy and you're gonna do a, $8,000 sign-on bonus, if you did every 6 months that person was here, they get $2,000 on their check as part of their sign-on bonus. You kind of hold that $8,000 in escrow, basically, for each person that you hire to make sure that you have that money throughout that 2-year time period to pay for that.
As long as that works for y'all, I mean,
I'm just using theoretical.
y'all don't have to work with us to do that.
From an accounting standpoint, can you do that?
I mean, I'll just have to keep a spreadsheet, and I'll have to carry that money for 2 years to make sure I got it in the budget for 2 years.
So basically, it'll be spent but not spent, like you said, in escrow.
Right.
But you definitely monitor that account.
Yeah.
To make sure that, okay,
And make
that can
sure
be
where
done. That
the
can be
money's
done,
being spent.
okay.
Ms. Stanley?
Is that okay? I don't even think we need to have a motion for that, do we?
Would it make it easier if you didn't have to deal with it with that 12-month period?
I mean,
That's why I spoke up for her, hoping to get rid of it for a year, but I totally understand what Spence is saying. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
but I think if you put 2 years on it, you might have a better chance of retaining.
Right. I
For
was
2
hoping we
years.
could get it cleared up within a year, but if it's okay with Ms. Stanley, can we do it, say, for 2 years?
And I'm asking because I don't know. Can we not have them sign a 2-year contract to get it and pay it at the end of the first 12 months?
Yeah, we can do
They got a
that.
2-year
I
contract.
mean, that's how other places do
We can do
it.
that. We can do
Yeah,
that.
my first thing is like those nurses, they have those, I know somebody was a nurse. She done a sign-on bonus, and I mean, she was giving it to when she was hired.
Right. That's what I was gonna say. You can have them sign a contract to do anything, but the problem is if you pay it after a year and then they leave,
You can't get blood out of the turnip.
Yeah.
It doesn't get you put out of the turnip.
In the contract, if they quit in less than that time, does not give them their vacation payout. Whatever little bit of vacation pay they have, you can help subsidize it.
yeah, we
You wrote all that in the contract.
we would have to check on that as to whether or not we
But
can do that.
if they want to play the system, they could take their
I was
vacation
gonna say,
time.
use up their vacation
Yeah,
time.
most of the employees use their vacation.
My only concern was trying
You
to
don't, you have very few.
That was crazy,
That was me.
I'm about to do the same thing.
juggling chainsaws.
Well,
And we can use this on either side of the house, right? On the patrol side or the jail side.
I don't know, well, my question would be, are you struggling on the jail side? Because I think this should be like I'm not trying to take away from the jail side, but if you're struggling on road deputies, I would probably, my recommendation would be to consider using this for hiring road deputies, because that's where you're struggling to hire folks.
We don't, I think we have one opening at the jail right now, and that's because we took somebody.
So if you're not struggling over there, I don't know if I would utilize this money for that. I would try to make it work for my road deputies to make sure that you can get people to come.
I don't know that I would do that. If this is budgeted for the detention center, I would probably use it with the detention center.
Well, that defeats the purpose.
We need it really on the other side of the house, more so.
It's not gonna help him.
Does it matter?
No, as Ms. Stanley has said, it's going to be in your salary line item, so, I mean, it's really,
And both of them is the sheriff's.
both are under the sheriff, so.
Okay. However, y'all figure it out. I don't know.
It's gonna take somebody smarter than me, but,
But the money's there.
her.
The money's there.
Okay.
You know the money's there for the 4
And
slots.
4 slots are there to hire at the jail, and $160,000 to use for,
Well, and it probably won't be 160, because if you hire 4 people today to go to the jail,
It's gonna
you're gonna
go
have to
against
cover,
that
you're gonna
this
have to
year.
cover whatever their money is, their salary from now till July 1st, out of that 160. So maybe implement, that post July 1st, or however. So
I want to say one more thing, Mr. Burns, and I'm gonna be done. Dr. Butler, I think you can help me with this. Now, use this money to hire. That should include equipping them too. Because, duty belts, all kind of stuff. We even got a price years ago, not in your administration, but for a pair of boots, $400. Am I correct? Yep. So, I mean, that needs to be taken into consideration too.
Okay.
yeah, okay. But I thought this was just like a hiring bonus to help
Yeah.
entice people to come in the door. We have an equipment budget, so. I don't think it's $400 boots today, though.
Well, it wasn't your
No,
administration.
it wasn't your administration.
Is there any other comment?
No.
So are you going to use for the deputies and the detention, or just the deputies?
Well, the deputies are the biggest, like Mr. Ford said, that's the biggest concern right now. I didn't know we had the 4 slots. That just somehow or another that got by me. So we are full, not counting those 4 slots at the detention center right now. So we need help on the other side of the house.
I'm shocked that you didn't know. You need to go over
So
and have
road
a talk
deputies.
with
Road
Mr. Cole's
deputies.
wife.
She didn't know either, because we thought I thought we were with this, we were gonna bring in the guy, remember the last conversation, Mr. Eubanks, we were gonna bring the guy in that did the actual survey to come before council and explain his numbers to you. And that's the latest I heard, and I was just waiting on when to do that.
Well, it all happened right there at the end of budget, right at our 3rd reading, and he was getting served, the study hadn't come in yet. So they made the decision to go ahead and do the 4 slots, because they felt like we were gonna have to do it anyway. So that's where it all took place.
Okay.
We just look at it as you saved $160,000 for a year.
And I'm gonna spend it too.
Yeah, no doubt.
Okay, well, I think that's cleared up. You've got the money, you're gonna spend the money.
Yes, ma'am.
We need a motion.
Do we need a motion? Okay. All right, so we're gonna take a little 5-minute break.
Thank you.
You're welcome. there need to go into executive session? Mr. Ruffin, if you will,
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair.
just thank you.
That would be pursuant to South Carolina Code Section 30-4-70 subsection A1, and that would be to enter into executive session to discuss employment, appointment, compensation, promotion, demotion, discipline, or release of certain employees. And as noted on the agenda, the committee may take action by voting upon the matters discussed in executive session after exiting executive session.
Okay, is there a motion to enter into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we enter into executive session. We in executive sessions, no motions were made, no votes were taken, and we are out. So, so how do you all want to handle, we had 6 items that we discussed,
Let's go one at a time, and we'll just move down from the top to the bottom.
okay? So the first item was the chief magistrate request.
Yes, ma'am, and to make it clear, he requested $10,000, and then when full-time come in, he would give back 5, the part-time come in, he'd give back the other 5.
Okay.
And that's gonna be a wash, and the money's there. So I make the motion to approve it.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and second that we approve the chief magistrate request of the $10,000 increase. Okay? Plus the COLA increase, because the cost of living for him, we did say that we would add the COLA.
That's
Okay.
what I did say, but y'all.
He's working,
Now, that's, in that motion, that is with the amount that will be reduced down,
The
correct?
10,000 will be
Okay.
reduced. Okay. So to clarify, he's requesting the $10,000 that we're approving, plus the COLA increase for the magistrate. Okay. You have a question?
I'm a little bit confused. I didn't think we'd done the code anyway, but you said we did.
We did for him.
you did, but the
For him, We did, okay.
Right, because
Okay, I
this
thought we treated them all the same.
$10,000 will
Okay.
be coming off.
Oh,
plus-
okay. All right, makes sense.
and
Makes sense.
it's also coming from the extended
That's a little
duties
different
he's
circumstance.
Right,
I've had too many numbers running around in my head today.
right, okay,
Motion still stands with the COLA.
okay, it's been moved and
Second.
second.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. IT department requesting, 10% increase of about $7,500.
Make a motion, we accept that, without the COLA.
Moved in second without the COLA. 10% increase. Voter registration director requested we're recommending a 10% increase for the voter registration director.
Motion.
Second.
Motion and second, and it's approved. Veterans Affairs, recommending a salary supplement that's coming from the state in the amount of $6,000.
As long as it lasts.
As long as it
Let's make
lasts.
that clear in the motion, that as long as it lasts, she'll receive it. And when it stops coming from the state, well,
You'll take it up then, yep.
Okay, and again, that is a supplement from the state.
Correct.
Okay,
Motion.
Second.
okay. And the motion's carried. Administrator. We are requesting a $20,000 increase for the administrator with the understanding that he will stay with us a minimum of a year,
Okay.
maybe longer, but a minimum of a year.
Okay. I would ask that when budget's over, let's start the process
It's gonna
of,
be started immediately.
of hiring.
We're gonna start tomorrow.
There you go.
Okay.
I don't know about tomorrow, but
Or a day after tomorrow. Okay. So,
Motion.
Second.
motion and second, motion's carried. Road Department Director, we are recommending a $5,000 salary increase for the road director
Without the cost of living.
without the cost of living.
That's your motion?
Motion.
Second.
It's been moved and second, the motion carried. And that completes our executive session.
Was, Tim without that COLA increase?
Yes, ma'am. Everything's without the COLA increase except the magistrate.
Correct.
Okay? All right, any other comments, questions, anyone?
Thank you for your hard work, both of you. Thank you. I've enjoyed it. I'm lying, but, it's been nice.
Okay, well,
It's a tough time. It's a hard job, I guess, Ms. Burke. You've got a really tough job. You really do.
and if I'm not bad mistaken, just so Mr. Smallwood will know, and Mr. Ford already may know, up until the time we came on this council, they wouldn't, is that correct? It just was a budget sent out. It didn't go by just like we've done. And Mr. Curtis, I think, was the
I
main
heard the
one.
words you said, but yeah. I
Yes,
agree with you.
that's all right, don't worry about what I'm saying anyway. But, Mr. Curtis was the one that got that started, and we worked at it ever since in that way.
So thank the committee.
Thank you,
Thank you
ma'am.
all for coming. Thank council, co-council members, all the staff. I really appreciate all of your
Yes, we
input, all of
appreciate
your work.
all of y'all.
And the meeting is adjourned.